Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 29. Dharmam pravadatastasya sakala pratyupastitaha yo yoginaschandharmatyor vanchitastu uttaranayah.
Translation. While Bhismadeva was describing occupational duties, the sun's course ran into the northern hemisphere. This period is desired by mystics who die at their will.
Text 30. Tadrup samhritya girha sahasrani vimukta sanghan man adi purushe Krishne lalaspita pate chaturbhuje punarstite militam dhruvadharayat.
Thereupon that man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men, stopped speaking and, being completely freed from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide-eyed, open eyes upon the original personality of Godhead. Shri Krishna, who stood before him, four-handed, dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined.
Text 31. Vishuddhaya dharanaya hatashubhas tadikshayaiva shukata Nivritta sarvendriya vritti vibhramas tuštavajanyam vrisajan janardanam.
By pure meditation, looking at Lord Shri Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains and caused by the arrow wounds. Thus, all the external activities of his senses at once are stopped, and he prayed transcendentally to the controller of all living beings while quitting his material body.
Text 32. Shri Bhishma Uvacha Iti mati rupa kalpita vitrushna Bhagavati satvata pungave vibhumni swasukhamupagate pavichita hitam prakrtimupyoshati yat pravaha.
Vishwadev said, "Let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which was all engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Shri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of the devotees, enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world, although from him only the material world is created."
Text 33. Tribhuvan kamanam kamalvarnam ravikar gauravarambaram dadhane vapuralakulavritam nanabjanabjam vijaya sakhe me Navadya.
Shri Krishna is the intimate friend of Arjuna. He has appeared on this earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the bluish color of the tamal tree. His body attracts everyone in the three planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face, covered with paintings of sandalwood pulp, be the object of my attraction, and may I not desire fruity results.
Text 34. Yudhitur garajo vibhrum vishvakam kachalulita shramavārya alam katasye मम निशिता सर्वे विधीयमाना त्वचि विलसतकवस्तु कृष्ण आत्मा.
On the battlefield where Sri Krishna attended Arjun out of friendship, the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen dew to the dust raised by the hoofs of the horses. And because of his labor, beads of sweat wetted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Sri Krishna.
Text 35. Sapadi sakhi vacho nishamya madhe निज परयो बलयो रथम निवेश्या हितवती परसैनिकायुरक्षा हितवती पार्थ सखेरतिर्ममास्तु.
In obedience to the command of his friend, Lord Shri Krishna entered the arena of the battlefield of Kurukshetra between the soldiers of Arjun and Duryodhan. And while there, he shortened the lifespans of the opposite party by his merciful glance. This was done simply by his looking at the enemy. Let my mind be fixed upon that Krishna.
Text 36. व्यवहित प्रतनामुखं निरीक्षा स्वजनवधा मुखवधा विमुख्य दोषबुद्ध्या कुमतिमा आहरदात्मा विध्याय चरणरति परमास्य तस्य मेस्तु.
When Arjuna was seemingly polluted by ignorance upon observing the soldiers and commanders before him on the battlefield, the Lord eradicated his ignorance by delivering transcendental knowledge. May his lotus feet always remain the object of my attraction.
Text 37. Swanigama mati mat pratikyama Ritamadika vrutalapto rathastha Dhritarata charano bhyayachalatu Haryariravihantu me Hama Katutariya.
Fulfilling my vow and sacrificing his own promise, he got down from the chariot, took up its wheel, and ran towards me hurriedly, just as a lion goes to kill an elephant. He even dropped his outer garment on the way.
Text 38. Shita vishikhato vishenadamsha Chataja parilupta atetaiyom no me Prasabha mabhipasasara madhavadhartham Sabhavatu me Bhagavan Gatir Mukunda.
May he, Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead who awards salvation, be my ultimate destination. On the battlefield, he charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered and his body was smeared with blood due to the wounds.
Text 39. Vijaya Ratha Kutumba Atratotre Dhrita Hyaya Rashmini Takshine Chaniye Bhagavati Ratirastu Me Mumosho यमिह निरीक्षः तागता स्वरूपम्.
At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjun, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjun's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra retained their original forms after death.
Text 40. Lalita gati vilasa valguhasa pranaya nirikshana kalpito rumana kritamanu kritavrata unmadanda prakritimagan kilayasya go Pavadva.
Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Shri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Vrajdam, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movement of the Lord after his disappearance from the Ras dance.
Text 41. Muni Gana Nipavarya Sankulenta Sadashti Yudhishthira Rajasu Yaesham Aharanam Upapeda Ikshaniyo Mama Drishigocchar Esh Aviratma.
At the Rajya Yagna sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthira, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world, the royal and learned orders, and in that assembly, Lord Shri Krishna was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. This happened during my presence, and I remembered the incident in order to keep my mind upon the Lord.
Text 42. Tami Mahamajama Sharira Bhajam Hidi Dristima Atma Kalpitana Pratidrushamavika Naikadhar Kama Pratidrushamiva Dharkikam Samadhidhatosmi Vidhuta Bhedamoham.
Now I can meditate with full concentration upon that one Lord, Shri Krishna, now present before me, because now I have transcendated the misconceptions of duality in regard to his presence in everyone's heart, even in the hearts of the mental speculators. He is in everyone's heart. The sun may be perceived differently, but the sun is one.
Text 43. Sutta Uvacha Krishna evam bhagavati mano vagdrishti vrittibhihi atmani atmanam aveshya sontasvasha uparamat.
Sut Goswami said, thus Vishwadev merged himself in the Super Soul, Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his mind, speech, sight, and actions, and thus he became silent and his breathing stopped.
Text 44. Sampatyamanam agyaya bhishmam brahmani nishkale sarve bhavuvastu tushnim vayam sivadinatyaye.
Knowing that Vishmadev had merged into the unlimited eternity of the Supreme Absolute, all present there became silent like birds at the end of the day.
Text 45. Tatra dundubhayo nedur devmanavavaditaha samshasa sadhavu rajnam khatpetu pushpa vristaya.
Thereafter, both men and demigods sounded drums in honor, and the honest royal order commenced demonstrations of honor and respect. And from the sky fell showers of flowers.
Text 46. Tasya nirharadana tasya nirharanadini sampattesya. Sorry. Text 46. Tasya nirharanadini sampatre tasya bhargava yudhishthira karya vidya muhurtam dukhito bhavata.
O descendant of Bhrigu, Shonak, after performing funeral rites for the dead body of Bhishmadev, Maharaj Yudhishthira was momentarily overtaken with grief.
Text 47. Tushtu virmunayo hrista Krishnam tadgurya namabhi tataste Krishna hridaya swashramana prayuhu punaha.
All the great sages then glorified Lord Shri Krishna, who was present there, by confidential Vedic hymns. Then all of them returned to their respective hermitages, bearing always Lord Krishna within their hearts.
Text 48. Tato yudhishtharo gatva saha Krishno gajayaham pitaram santavya vayayasam gandharischa tapasvinim.
Thereafter, Maharaj Yudhishthira at once went to his capital, Hastinapur, accompanied by Lord Shri Krishna. And there he consoled his uncle and aunt Gandhari, who was an ascetic.
Text 49. Pitra chanumato raja vasudevānumoditaha chakara rajyam dharmena pitrapaitamaham vibhuhu.
After this, the great religious king, Maharaj Yudhishthira, executed the royal power in the kingdom strictly according to the codes of royal principles approved by his uncle and confirmed by Lord Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, both of you. Krishna Mataji nicely recited very fluently the English. And Prem Kumari Mataji, very, very nice. The pronunciation was fantastic and very melodious. Nice done. Thank you so much. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you. Let me just
Sorry,
stop.
Prabhuji, lots of mistakes, but please forgive.
No problem at all. No, hardly any mistakes. Hare Krishna. Okay. Devotees, welcome everybody who's just recently joined. Let me just share my screen and then we can go from there. Hare Krishna. So we're continuing our reading of the 9th chapter of the first canto, and titled Pass Away of Vishmadev in presence of Lord Krishna. So today we'll be doing sections 38 to 40. As usual, we'll just do a quick recap of where we are so far. So this chapter, the first 11 verses, Vishmadev welcomes everyone. 12 to 17, Vishmadev pacifies and encourages the Pandavas, especially Yudhishthira Maharaj. 18 to 24, Vishmadev glorifies Krishna's position as Supreme Personality of Godhead. 25 to 28, Vishmadev instructs Yudhishthira Maharaj. 29 to 31, Vishmadev's final moments. And then this current section, is talking about Vishwadev's prayers, Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavatam, many parts we have beautiful prayers from many exalted devotees. And it's very nice to meditate on the mood and these prayers. So yeah, very interesting part. So just a short invocation before we start today's verses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Nashtapaeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Krishne Swadam Upagate Dharma Jnana Dhivi Saha Kalau Nasta Drisham Esha Purana Kodunodita Mukam Karoti Vachalan Pangum Langayati Girim Yakti Patamaham Mandeshi Guru Dinataranam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Shauru Swami Kinamine Nikta Cheta Supraneta Vagvenam Jara Saputam Prabhupada Gatapana Naumi Bhakti Vedanta Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Kinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharina Nirvishya Sundravadi Prabhupada Ki Jai. So the verses 38, 39, 40. So we'll do as we did last week, go through the verse, translation, purport, yeah, like that, all three verses, and then we'll go deeper as time permits. So 1:938. Tita Vishika Hatovrishni Nadam Saha Chata Japari Pluta Atatayino Me Prasabham Abhishasara Madhavadara Tham Sabhavantu Me Bhagavan Gati Mukunda. May he, Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who awards salvation, be my ultimate destination. On the battlefield, he charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered and his body was smeared with blood due to the wounds. So I've got 2 pages on this particular purport. So somebody can just unmute and read the first page, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my Dandavat pranams.
Hare Krishna.
Mamta Mataji.
Please, Mamta
I can
Mataji.
read if you want me to, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
I'll read the translation first. Is that right? Prabhuji?
I read the translation already, Mamta Mataji, just the purport. Purport, page 1 and 2. So if you look at the screen, you will see where I stopped because it may not be exactly as per the book.
Oh, it's not. I cannot see. I don't know why.
But we can't see it on the screen.
Can't see on the
Oh,
screen.
sorry. Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. I haven't. Sorry, my fault. I didn't switch the screen.
No worries, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. The dealings of Lord Krishna and Bhishma Deva on the battlefield of Kurukshetra are interesting because the activities of Lord Sri Krishna appear to be partial to Arjuna and at enmity with Bhishma Deva. But factually, all this was especially meant to show special favor to Bhishma Deva, a great devotee of the Lord. The astounding feature of such dealings is that a devotee can please the Lord by playing the part of an enemy. The Lord, being absolute, can accept service from his pure devotee even in the garb of an enemy. The Supreme Lord cannot have any enemy, nor can a so-called enemy harm him because he is Ajita or unconquerable. But still, he takes pleasure when his pure devotee beats him like an enemy or rebukes him from a superior position, although no one can be superior to the Lord. These are some of the transcendental reciprocatory dealings of the devotee with the Lord. And those who have no information of pure devotional service cannot penetrate into the mystery of such dealings. Bhishma Deva played the part of a valiant warrior, and he purposefully pierced the body of the Lord so that to the common eyes it appeared that the Lord was wounded, but factually, all this was to bewilder the non-devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mamta Mataji. Next page, anybody?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Krishna Mataji.
The all-spiritual body cannot be wounded, and a devotee cannot become the enemy of the Lord. Had it been so, Bhishma Dev would not have desired to have the very same Lord as the ultimate destination of his life. Had Bhishma Dev been an enemy of the Lord, Lord Krishna could have annihilated him without even moving. There was no need to come before Bhishma Dev with blood and wounds. But he did so because the warrior devotee wanted to see the transcendental beauty of the Lord decorated with wounds created by a pure devotee. This is the way of exchanging transcendental rasa or relations between the Lord and the servitor. By such dealings, both the Lord and the devotee become glorified in their respective positions. The Lord was so angry that Arjuna checked him when he was moving towards Bhishma Dev, but in spite of Arjuna's checking, he proceeded towards Bhishma Dev as a lover goes to a lover without caring for hindrances. Apparently, his determination was to kill Bhishma Dev, but factually it was to please him as a great devotee of the Lord. The Lord is undoubtedly the deliverer of all conditioned souls. The impersonalists desire salvation from him, and he always awards them according to their aspiration. But here, Bhishma Dev aspires to see the Lord in his personal feature. All pure devotees aspire for this. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Krishna Mataji. Yes. We'll go to some points of this purport later. But right now, just move on to the next, which is 39. Vijaya Ratha Kutumbam Atatotre Tritya Hayarashmini Tajriye Kshanaye Shaniye Bhagavati Ratirastu Me Mumusho Yami Hanikshata Kata Swarupam. At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjun, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjun's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. Okay, so we've got 3 pages on this one. So somebody else can just unmute and read, please.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Puja Mataji.
A pure devotee of the Lord constantly sees the presence of the Lord within himself because of being transcendentally related by loving service. Such a pure devotee cannot forget the Lord for a moment. This is called trance. The mystic yogi tries to concentrate upon the super soul by controlling the senses from all other engagements, and thus he ultimately attains samadhi. A devotee more easily attains samadhi or trance by constantly remembering the Lord's personal future along with his holy name, fame, pastimes, etc. Therefore, the concentration of the mystic yogi and that of the devotee are not on the same level. The concentration of the mystic is mechanical, whereas that of a pure devotee is natural in pure love and spontaneous affection. Bhishma Dev was a pure devotee, and as a military marshal, he constantly remembered the battlefield features of the Lord as Partha Sarathi, the chariot driver of Arjuna. Therefore, the Lord's pastimes as Partha Sarathi is also eternal. The pastimes of the Lord, beginning from his birth at the prison house of Kans up to the Moshala Lila at the end, all move one after another in all the universes, just as the clock hand moves from one point to another. And in such pastimes, his associates like the Pandavas and Bhishma are constant eternal companions. So Bhishma Dev never forgot the beautiful feature of the Lord as Partha Sarathi, even when Arjuna could not see. Arjuna was behind the beautiful Parthasarthi, while Bhishmadev was just in front of the Lord. As far as the military future of the Lord is concerned, Bhishmadev observed this with more relish than Arjuna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Puja Mataji. Okay, somebody else for page 2?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Seema Mataji.
All the soldiers and persons in the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original spiritual form, like the Lord after their death, because they, by the causeless mercy of the Lord, they were able to see him face to face on that occasion. The conditioned souls rotating in the evolutionary cycle from the aquatic up to the form of the Brahma are all in the form of Maya. On the form obtained by one's own action and avoided by material nature. The material form of the conditioned souls are all for foreign dresses, and when the conditioned souls become liberated from the clutches of material energy, he attains his original form. The impersonalist wants to attain the impersonal Brahma effulgence of the Lord, but that is not at all cognitia to the living spark, part and parcels of the Lord, because the impersonalists again fall down and get material forms, which are all false to the spirit soul. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Seema Mataji. Third page on this, please.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please, Pragati Mataji.
Hare Krishna. The spiritual form, like the Lord's, either two-handed or four-handed, is attained by the devotees of the Lord, either in the Vaikuntha or in the Goloka planet, according to the original nature of the soul. This form, which is 100% spiritual, is the Swarupa of the living being, and all the living beings who participated on the battlefield of Kurukshetra on both sides attained their Swarupa as confirmed by Bhishmadev. So Lord Sri Krishna was not merciful only to Pandavas, he was also merciful to the other parties because all of them attained the same result. Bhishmadeva wanted the same facility also, and that was his prayer to the Lord. Although his position as an associate of the Lord is assured in all circumstances, the conclusion is that whoever dies looking on the personality of Godhead, within or without, attains his Swarupa, which is the highest perfection of life.
Thank you, Bhagavati Mataji. The last section, last one in this particular section, text 40. Lalita Gati Vilasa Valguhasa Pranaya Nirikshana Kalpito Rumana Kritam Anukrit Vayata Kritam Anukrit Vayatya Unmadanadaha Prakritim Agankila Yashya Gopavadava. Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Krishna. Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Rajdam, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from the rasa dance. So two pages now from this one. So anybody else, please?
Can I try, Mukunda Hariprabhu?
Oh, yes, please, Palika Mataji.
Hare Krishna. It's number 40, yeah?
Yeah, so if you look at the screen, Mataji, because I've split it up in a way that there can be 2 pages.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Lord Krishna, although acting as the cousin, brother, friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, bent by intense ecstasy in loving service, the damsel of Brajabhumi attained qualitative oneness with the Lord by dancing with him on an equal level, embracing him in nuptial love, smiling at him in joke, and looking at him with a loving attitude. The relation of the Lord with Arjuna is undoubtedly praiseworthy for devotees like Bhishmadev. but the relation of the gopis with the Lord is still more praiseworthy because of their still more purified loving service. By the grace of Lord, Arjuna was fortunate enough to have parental service of the Lord as chariot driver. But the Lord did not award Arjuna with equal strength. The gopis, however, practically became one with the Lord by attainment of equal footing with the Lord. Bhishma's aspiration to remember the gopis is a prayer to have their mercy also at the last stage of his life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Valika Mataji. Last page, anybody?
Can I read, please?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. The Lord is satisfied more when his pure devotees are glorified, and therefore Bhishmadev has not only glorified the acts of Arjuna, his immediate object of attraction, but has also remembered the gopis, who were endowed with unrivaled opportunities for rendering loving service to the Lord. The gopis' equality with the Lord should never be misunderstood to be like the Sayujya liberation of the impersonalist. The equality is one of perfect ecstasy, where the differential conception is completely eradicated, for the interest of the lover and the beloved become identical, e-factor, etc., of the Pandavas, was still the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Out of his causeless mercy and favor upon his unalloyed devotees, he performs all kinds of service, but that does not mean that he has changed his position as the absolute person. To think of him as an ordinary man is the grossest type of ignorance. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Yashwini Mataji. Thank you. Prabhupada ki jai. Just a short prayer now, due of time. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimade Bhakti Chari Swamini Namine Stika Cheta Supranita Vadinam Saraswati Prabhupada Gata Pranam Bhakti Chari. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimade Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Prasadi Nami Vishnu Supreme Bhakti Prabhupada Ki Jai. So yeah, let's see how this goes. We've got very, very little time and there's lots to discuss. As you can see in this purpose, there's so much that Prabhupada has packed. So I had to be just looking at it and picking up things at random, really. So I'm sorry if the whole purpose is not covered, but hopefully the idea is that you will all be reading these in your own time so you can get deeper understanding. Because when we're doing it like this with 3 or 4 verses at a time, especially with long purports, a lot of time goes and it's not possible to go very deep into the purports. So, right, so let's just take this. This is from the purport of text 38, where Prabhupada is saying the dealings of Lord Krishna and Bhishmadev on the battlefield of Kurukshetra are interesting because the activities of Lord Krishna appear to be partial to Arjuna and at enmity with Bhishmadev. But factually, all this was especially meant to show special favor to Bhishmadev, a great devotee of the Lord. The astounding feature of such dealings is that a devotee can please the Lord by playing a part of an enemy. So this, as we know, we've heard many times that the Lord, he has different rasas, which we will look at in detail later, time permitting. But in the Vaikuntha planets, in Golok, Vrindavan, etc., Lord doesn't, of course, in Golok we have the demons coming attacking, and that's the short pastime. But later on, especially in Vaikuntha, you don't have any enemies there. There's no fighting going on. Everybody is worshipping the Lord in awe and reverence. So the Lord, to enjoy his Virya Rasa, he then arranges actually the pastime of his devotees coming down and playing the part of demons. And a very famous example of that is Jai and Vijay.
Vijay.
And Vijay.
Exactly, yes. So Jay and Vijay, they, of course, very, very quickly, the brief pastime was that Jay and Vijay, they were actually associates of the Supreme Lord. They were the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. The four Kumaras decided to go and visit Vaikuntha, and they were stopped at the gate. And then an argument ensued. And as a result of the argument, the four Kumaras cursed Jay and Vijay to come down, to come down to the earth. And then, as we know, the Lord came, and the Lord couldn't completely remove the curse, but said, okay, fine. What I'll do is I'll make it easier for you. So you can, if you want, you can go down for 3 lifetimes as my enemy and come back. So they went for 3 lifetimes like this. So how did they go? What was the first incarnation, Jai Vijay?
Hiranyakashipu.
Hiranyaksha,
Ravan.
Kumkaran and Ravan.
Ravan and Kumkaran, very good.
Kumkaran,
And the last one?
Kamsa,
Kamsa
and Kshetrapala, Shishupal.
These are the 3. But then so these are 3 we know very famous, and this is how they perform the pastimes of being enemies of the world. But then this is what is explained mainly in other Shastras. But when we read our Gaudiya Shastras, then there's one more. And does anybody know what's the last one?
Jai and Vijay. Jai and Vijay.
No, Jai Vijay was the beginning.
Sorry,
Jagai and
Jagai and Madai. Jagai and Madai. So it is explained in the where is it? In the Ganodesha Dipika. This is actually mentioned in the Adilila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is said that the 2 brothers Jagai and Madai, they came down in this yuga to also show temporary enmity to Lord Chaitanya's devotees. So this is how devotees, the devotees of the Lord actually come down to satisfy the Lord's Virya Rasa. Then again, a little bit later in the text 38, he speaks about these rasas. So had Vishwadev been an enemy of the Lord, Prabhupada says, Lord Krishna would have annihilated him without even moving. There was no need to come before Vishwadev with blood and wounds. But he did so because the warrior devotee wanted to see the transcendental beauty of the Lord decorated with the wounds created by a pure devotee. This is the way of exchanging transcendental rasa or relationship or relations between the Lord and the servant. So this is speaking about the rasas. And of course, this particular rasa, as we mentioned earlier, was the Virya rasa. So let's look at quickly, just as a revision for us for the rasas. We know there's 5 primary rasas. Can anybody name all 5?
Vatsalya, Sakhya,
Dasya.
Dasya.
Yeah, I think we got them all right. Sakhya.
Madhurya.
Yeah, in Madhurya. So in sequence, it goes like this: Shanta, which is neutrality; Dasya, servitude; Sakhya, friendship; Vatsalya is parental; and then Madhurya or Shringar, which is conjugal. And then the 7 secondary rasas. Anybody? These are a bit harder because we don't discuss so much of them. But there are 7 secondary.
Is one of them anger? Anger?
Yes,
Krodha is there.
Krodha is there, yes.
Wonder.
Virya, Hasya.
Yes, Virya.
Envy?
Envy.
Envy is not there. Envy is an anartha. That's not rasa.
Okay.
Okay. So so we got Virya, we got anger. And Anandavardhana, you mentioned something else?
Hasya.
Is it wonder there? Wonder.
Hasya, yes, Hasya. Hasya is there. Hasya, wonder is there. Somebody has mentioned wonder, yes.
Yeah, wonder is there.
Yes.
Bibitsaras.
Yes, Bibitsa, that's right. That's yeah, exactly. That's fear. So we got quite a few. That's because in interest of time, we'll just go through them here. So Hasya, which is humor or laughter.
There is Shringar as well. Shringar.
Shringar was in the first one, in the first 5.
Oh, I see. It was in the first one.
So there's Hasya, Advaita. We got both of these, wonder. Then we got
Wonder.
chivalry. Then
Mercy,
Rudra,
mercy
we
must
got
be.
anger.
Mercy.
Mercy is there, yes. Karuna, that's it, perfect. And
And
then
what about
Bhayanak, horror.
Bhayanak, yeah, horror, yeah. That's
And then
it.
Divasa, somebody mentioned, was ghastliness. So these are the 12 rasas. So that's just a revision. And in the verse of 39, in the main text, so at the moment of death, that my ultimate fraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So now this actually, you look at this particular sentence, this is the real aim of Krishna consciousness, isn't it? To be at the time of death in Krishna consciousness. That is the aim of all that philosophy that we are learning. So there's a verse in the 8th chapter, text 5, which actually Krishna speaks about this. Anybody know this verse? Very famous.
Antakale chamameva.
Very good. Go on. Antakale chamameva smaran mukta kalevaram yah prayati samad bhavam yati nasyata samshaya. Krishna says, whoever at the end of his life puts his body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. That means we get a spiritual body. That's Krishna's nature. And then in the Bhagavatam is also explained something similar. 2:16. Anybody? And whether you've done your second canto, right? This must be one of your memory verses. Again, in the interest of time, we have to move on. Etavan sankhya yoga bhyan swadharma parinishtaya janma labha para pumsam ante narayana smriti. So Etavan sankhya. So the highest perfection of life, it is said, which is achieved either by complete knowledge of spirit, of matter and spirit, or by perfection of yoga practice, or by perfection of perfect discharge of one's occupational duty, is to remember the Supreme Lord at the end of life. Ante Narayana Smriti. Actually, there are many verses like this. These are the two that came to mind. And then how do we achieve this? How do we get to this stage? This is explained in verse 8-7 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmar yudhyacha mayarpita mano buddhir mam evasyashi asamshaya. This asamshaya comes again, without doubt. So he is saying Tasmat. So he says, I'm going to just mute here. So he says, Tasmat sarveshu. So he says, Krishna says, therefore, because he's talking about in 8.5 and 8.6, talking about the end of life, he says, therefore, always, he says, how do you say? Therefore, always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time, perform your duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and consciousness engaged in me, you will surely come to me. You will surely get my associate at the end. So this is how we realize that this is a very important sentence that we must, this is all, we must practice this and remember Krishna all the time, so that there's a small chance that we can remember him at home. If we just remember Krishna for half an hour when we're doing our seva in the morning, and then rest of the day we do nothing about Krishna, then there's a very less chance that we remember him. If somebody has done devotional service and remembered him throughout the day, there's a chance that at the time of death we will remember him. It's a very, very important concept, this. Then in the purport of 39, Krishna says, Prabhupada rather says, a pure devotee of the Lord constantly sees the presence of the Lord within himself because of being transcendentally related by loving service. So devotees are different kind of processes of people sort of follow. So one is the Jnani. The Jnani follows the process of Vedic study, mental speculation, stuff like that. And the goal of the Jnani is the Brahma Jyoti. Then we have the Yogi. The Yogi is practicing meditation on the Supreme Soul within. And his goal, his process is that his goal is to get mystic powers. Then, of course, we have the Bhakta, which applies to all of us. And our process is devotional service. That's our practice. And our goal is to remember Krishna at the end of life. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, 19th chapter 149, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ateva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakaliya Shanta. So basically, Jnani is not Shanta. He's not going to be peaceful because he's trying to achieve something. He's got like a vested interest. He wants to get knowledge so that by that knowledge he can be eventually transported to the Brahmajyoti. Yogi, as we said, he is after mystic siddhis. So he's not going to be Shanta. But the Bhakta is Shanta. Why? Because he is just doing devotional service. And he just depends upon the Lord. He is not demanding anything from the Lord. And whatever happens to him is Lord's mercy. And the Bhakta sees the Lord within his heart all the time. And this is also confirmed in Brahma Samhita. I remember the verse in Brahma Samhita 633, I believe. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Dullabam Adullabam Atma Bhakta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Advaitam Achyutam, so he is without a second. Achyutam, he is not fallible. Anadim, he doesn't have a beginning. Ananta Rupam, he's got millions, trillions of rupas. Adyam, he is the beginning. Purusha Puranam, he's the oldest person. Purusha Puranam. Nava Yovanam Cha. He is still, although he's the oldest person, he is still like a fresh youth. Vedeshu Dullabam. So he is very difficult to understand through the Vedas. Like the Jnanis, they won't be able to understand him. But Adullabam Atma Bhakta. So he is Adullabam. He is not at all difficult for a pure devotee to understand. So this is about seeing the Lord within ourselves. Then, in carrying on in that same purport 39, the mystic yogi tries to concentrate upon the super soul by controlling the senses from all other engagements, and thus he ultimately attains samadhi. So this is the process of the mystic yogi, of Astanga yoga, basically the Hatha yoga process mentioned here. So this is the long way. It is a valid process. We can't negate it. It is a valid process, but this process was very practical in the previous ages when the people had longer lives and a lot more faculties, more power, more memory, more concentration, all that. And this is the process we all know: yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, and finally samadhi. So this is the process they go. It may take a lifetime or many lifetimes to get to this stage. And that's why in this Kali Yuga it's not recommended. Later on in that same purport, Prabhupada says a devotee more easily attains samadhi. So we have a shortcut. This is like going to the 50th floor of a building through the staircases. Here we have the lift. He says the devotee more easily attains samadhi or trance by constantly remembering the Lord's personal feature along with his holy name, fame, pastimes, etc. Therefore, the concentration of the mystic yogi and that of the devotee are not on the same level. So continuing on, let me see, there's something else. Yeah, okay, no. So continuing on, so all the soldiers and persons on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attain their original spiritual form like the Lord after their death, because by causeless mercy of the Lord, they were able to see him face to face on that occasion. So you see, it is said that when anybody who dies in the presence of Krishna, of course, their destination cannot be anything worse. He is going to be delivered. A lot of the demons, we understand, are delivered, but their deliverance is the Sayuja Mukti, which the devotees don't really want. Sayuja is merging within the Lord, the effulgence of the Lord. This is not the destination of a devotee. But regardless, in this case also, all the soldiers who are fighting on both sides, they got salvation. Here it says they got the original form. So there's two ways. So it is said that sometimes whenever the Lord is incarnated, descended, perform his pastimes, many times a lot of the Nitya Siddhas come with him. These are devotees, these are associates of the Lord who come down to facilitate his pastimes. So they, of course, will go back to get their form back. But even persons who are there on the battlefield, who are actually not from the Vaikuntha lokas, even they will go back because they are dying in presence of the Lord. And there's very interesting, this, I was reading up on this, and Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, who is one of the very, very exalted acharyas in our line, he explained this in a very nice way. So just listen to this carefully. He says the demons killed by Krishna, of course, demons, in this case, we're talking about the soldiers on the battlefield, but here he's speaking about the demons. The demons killed by Krishna experience not only the death of their gross material body, but the demise of their subtle body as well. So this is interesting, right? So when a living entity dies in a normal way, as we know, the material body is vanquished, but the subtle body remains, and the subtle body carries the soul to the next destination, next body, according to the karma and guna. But here it says that when Krishna kills, he also kills the subtle body. Then he continues, says, when the subtle body of the unrighteous person is destroyed by Krishna, the person's attitude towards him immediately changes, for his opposition to Krishna was a product of his subtle body. So you see, our mind, intelligence, and false ego are the part. They make up the subtle body. So the persons who are averse to Krishna are, because of they're using their intelligence the wrong way, and the mind and the false ego comes in the way. That's why they are inimical towards Krishna. So when that subtle body is destroyed, immediately, it says, immediately it changes, and their enmity goes away. So he concludes that little section by saying, thus, at the moment of death, he sees Krishna as the greatest object of affection. Can you imagine? Instantly, he suddenly, in that fraction of a second, when Krishna is killing somebody, of course, from the moment from his living stage to the dying stage, very, very brief time. But that brief time, because his subtle body is gone, he sees Krishna as the greatest object of affection. So he's explained here now, his liberation is not directly a result of being killed by Krishna. So Krishna is the cause, of course. He is the remote cause, but the immediate cause is a result of his newfound love for him. So I thought this was very, very interesting how Krishna deals with taking his devotees back like this. So this particular section, somebody wants to refer to it. It's in Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan's Govinda Bhasya commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So yeah, I'm going to still continue. I think one will be the last, maybe one more slide after this. So if you don't mind, I'll just continue. I know time is running away. So damsels imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from rasa dance. So Krishna's, this is explained in Krishna book. Krishna's hiding from the gopis. This is after the rasa dance. So here, when Krishna suddenly disappeared from the company of gopis, they began to search for him in every place. After not finding him anywhere, they became afraid and almost mad after him. They were simply thinking of the pastimes of Krishna in great love and affection. Being absorbed in thought, they experienced loss of memory, and with dampened eyes, they began to see the very pastimes of Krishna, his beautiful talks with them, his embracing, kissing, and other activities. Being so attracted to Krishna, they began to imitate his dancing, his walking, and smiling, as if they themselves were Krishna. Due to Krishna's absence, they all became crazy. Each one of them began to tell the other that she was Krishna himself. Soon they all began to assemble together and chant Krishna's name very loudly. And they moved from one part of the forest to another, searching for him. Actually, Krishna is all pervasive. He is in the sky, he is in the forest, he is within the heart, and he is everywhere. So this explains how this particular part where they started to imitate him. I think this is probably the last slide. So by grace, this is again the purport 40. He says, by the grace of the Lord, Arjun was fortunate enough to have the fraternal service of the Lord as a chariot driver. But the Lord did not award Arjun as an equal strength. The gopis, however, practically became one with the Lord by attainment of equal footing with the Lord. So in the Brihat Bhagavad Amrita, this is by Sanatana Goswami. Now, the first part of that particular literature talks about Narad Muni's search for the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna. It's very interesting how he goes from one place to another, trying to ascertain who is the greatest devotee, who is the devotee who received the greatest mercy from Krishna. So it starts off, he was in Prayag, and there he sees a wealthy Brahmana. And he was doing very nice worship. So Narad goes to him and says, I think you are the greatest devotee because you're doing this worship so nicely. So he says, no, I'm a Brahmana, so this is my service. This is my duty as a Brahmana to do this. But greater than me is a king in South India who is a Kshatriya, but despite of being a Kshatriya, he himself does amazing service. So you can go and see him. So he goes to the king in South India and he sees this king doing really amazing service to the Lord. So he says to the king, you must be the greatest devotee of the Lord. So the king says, no, whatever I'm doing is only a fraction. But the greatest devotee of the Lord is Indra, because Indra is such a pure devotee. Krishna saves him from all difficulties, and Krishna actually appeared as his younger brother. So he is the greatest devotee. Who is the younger brother of Lord Indra?
Upendra.
Yes, Upendra, Vamandev, exactly. So then he goes to Indra. So Indra says, I gave so much trouble to Krishna. Krishna had to come and save me all the time from the demons. Also, when it was in Vrindavan, I actually, I made him lift up the Govardhan hill because I showered so much rain on them. So I gave him so much trouble. So I am not really a great devotee. But Brahma is, because Brahma is the engineer of this universe, and Krishna favored him to give him that service. He goes to Brahma, and Brahma says, I also give Krishna so much trouble. I give boons to the demons, and the demons create havoc, and Krishna has to come and sort these things out. So I think Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee. So he goes to Lord Shiva, Narada goes to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva says that, I'm not really that great. I think the Vaikuntha Vasis, the residents of Vaikuntha, are the great devotees. But even better than them, he says, is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad is a great devotee. So he goes to Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj says, I was very childish. I was just, I didn't really do any service to Krishna. So better than me is Hanuman. Hanuman did so much wonderful personal service to the Lord. So he goes to the Lord, and Hanuman starts crying. He says, why are you joking with me? If I was such a great devotee, why would my Lord Ram leave me here and then reject me? He's separated from me, so I am not the greatest devotee. Maybe the Pandavas are, because the Pandavas are there with him all the time. I'm separated from him. So Pandavas are the oldest. So he goes to the Pandavas. The Pandavas say that, yes, okay, we are there, but the Pandavas, Uddhava was the closest. So go to Yadavas, and the Yadavas to Uddhava. Uddhava, I'll just go faster because we're running out of time. So Uddhava says that, what is it Uddhava say? Uddhava says that...
Gopis?
Gopis, yeah. He says actually Vrindavan Vasis. He says that the devotees in Vrindavan are the greatest. And the devotees in the Vrindavan, they are saying that the Gopis are the greatest.
Yeah.
And then when he sees the Gopis, then the Gopi says what? Who is the greatest devotee of the Lord?
Radha Kund.
Radharani.
Yeah.
So this is how the Lord bestows the most mercy on Srimati Radharani. So this is like a hierarchy. So I'll just very, very quickly cover that. So I'm going to stop here. Sorry, I've really overrun on time, but we've maybe a couple of minutes to take some questions. Anybody? Sorry, it was a bit of a rush. I speak fast anyway, so when I'm like this, I'm speaking even faster. So sorry if I was too rushed.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I ask one? Please accept my Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
No problem.
Can I ask one question? It's just a little bit out of the topic, but it's just really bothering me. It's regarding when, Kamsa kills all these 7 children. So who were they, Prabhuji?
So let me just think. Kamsa killed 7 children, and those children were sons of a rishi. Anybody can, something like Kalnemi, something comes into mind. Anybody remember this?
Because I think even Ganga Maya also, she obviously there's a story for them, na, Prabhuji. With
That's
Ganga Maya,
Bhishma. Ganga Maya was Bhishma Dev, and
but the children were again of some. There's a story linked.
So
with
those
that.
children, the Ganga's children, they were the 8 Vasus, exactly. So that's different in terms of
So over here,
Kamsa
like
killing the
5
7
children.
Say again.
Over here, there are 5 children, isn't it? 5 children, no, 6 children die.
Yeah.
And then 7th will be Balarama, who will be taken off, and then
Yes.
Krishna will be 8th, and
Yeah.
then Ma Durga the 9th one. So
yes,
the
there is
8th one.
past time. I do know this. I've read it, but not recently. So I will, if he maybe I'll read upon it, and we'll cover it next time.
No worries. Sorry, Prabhuji, I didn't mean to.
Okay,
Just
okay.
I think the Kalanemi, I think
Yeah.
he was the then Kalanemi becomes Kamsa or something. But Kalanemi had 6 children, and
Yes.
those children, like born. So
Yes.
there was a story, but I
Yeah, this is, I know the story.
Weren't they sons of Marichi, isn't it?
I'm not sure about Marichi. I think Kalanemi curses his own sons because they went against him, and he
Because
curses.
of having been cursed by Brahmana, they were obliged to take birth as grandson of Hiranyakashipu.
Okay. Yeah. So okay. So maybe one of us can do some. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll leave it for Bhagwati Mataji to do the.
Oh my God. Okay, we'll do. Okay.
Put it. You can just send it to me. Then I'll send it to the group.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Krishna Mukunda Hare Prabhu, just one question. Shishupal, when she was killed by Krishna, where did he go? Did he go?
Shishupal actually, yeah. So everybody who was there, they actually saw him enter into Krishna's body. So Shishupal, it is mentioned that Shishupal got a Sayuja Mukti. But again, Shishupal was what I understand is that he was also a Nitya Siddha. He was one of the associates of Krishna who came to play the part of Shishupal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Prabhuji, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10.1 to 10.13 explains you all about 6 children and Hiranyakashipu.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So Mamta Mataji, you have your reference. We all have a reference, so we can all have a look at it ourselves. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anybody else? Anybody else? It's almost 9 o'clock, so maybe we can call it a day. So yeah, I suppose as we go along, we'll get used to this. It's a very fast pace for me. It was much easier when you're doing it one verse. You can really go deep. But I also see the reason why we need to speed up, because otherwise most of us will not be here halfway through. But yeah, hopefully I'll get used to the pace, and maybe we'll learn a few things. But I think more important than ever now is for all of us to study in our spare time. Otherwise, we're skimming over these things, and it's not good. So if you can all study ourselves, ideally study beforehand, so we would have questions at the end if they're not covered properly in the session. So thank you all devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
kripa sindhuvaiva cha patitanam
Namo Namaha.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Wonderful class.
Thank you,
Thank you.
wonderful class. Thank you.
Very nice class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.